Hi everybody. Today I'm going to cook some ribeye steaks on the Kettle grill, but I'm going to cook some ribeye steaks. I got a couple of Tomahawk steaks. Look at these bad boys. Those are about 3-pound steaks, each one of them, and they're really nicely marbled. It's going to be a really great piece of meat. So sometimes these can be tricky to cook. I want the inside rare and I want the outside charred. And so that's going to require a lot of moving back and forth over the charcoal, between the heat, between the cool. If it just sits over the charcoal, you're going to drip fat and you're going to burn them. We don't want to burn them. I'm going to use a BBQ Dragon Spin Grate to make this a lot easier and simple. So let's go ahead and get started. All I'm going to do with these before I start cooking is put some salt and some pepper on them. A couple of nice steaks like these, I wouldn't want to pollute them with a whole bunch of other flavors. Salt and pepper, so here we go. Now, I warmed these steaks at room temperature here for the last couple hours because you definitely want to start off with them at room temperature, not right out of the fridge. The whole idea is keeping the cookedness, the doneness, even throughout the interior. And if you're starting out with a cold interior, you're going to overcook your outside before you even have the interior up to a rare condition. For salt, I'm going to use a kosher salt, and that's because it's thicker actually. The little granules of salt will stick to the outside of the meat better rather than dissolve and run off. So let me go ahead and start this. With a big piece of meat like this, I'm not too worried about over salting it at the beginning. And don't forget to get the edges. You can see those are big wide edges right there. Obviously, I'm patting the salt into the meat. There we go. I put the salt on first before the pepper so that I can really see how much salt I'm using. Sometimes if you have other spices on first, you don't really get a clear view of how much salt you've used, and then you can under or over salt the piece of meat. So again, patting the salt in. A thick steak like this, make sure I'm getting the edges of it, and that should do it. For the pepper, sometimes I find that if I use too big a grain of pepper, that it actually burns or falls off the steak rather than flavor the steak. So this time I'm going to use a regular fine grind pepper, and again I'll pat it in. Use a fair amount of pepper. When I was a kid, there used to be a steak called a pepper steak, and that thing was just about crusted with pepper. I don't think that we're going to do a pepper steak today. Just enough pepper there to remind you that pepper is a thing that makes food delicious. There used to be a whole industry based on pepper, the spice trade. Pepper was one of the main spices. And obviously, the salt road based on salt. That's why you say you earned your salt, because salt was such a valuable spice back in those times. Okay, that is about all I need to do with those. So the next thing to do is get our fire started in the Kettle grill, and we're ready to cook. So let's go over and get that fire started. So when I'm smoking meat, I like to use charcoal briquettes because I want to keep an even temperature, and it gives me a lot of consistency in how hot the charcoal is burning. But when I'm searing some big steaks like this, I want to use a hot fire, so I'm going to use some lump charcoal. I'm actually going to start out with a whole chimney of lump charcoal so I can really fill that zone up. Pretty small pieces in this lump charcoal here today. I would prefer a lot bigger pieces because it's going to give me a longer cook, but these small pieces will definitely start hot and fast, that's for sure. Speaking of fast, I'm starting it with a chimney of insanity, so it's only going to take me about 3 minutes to start it. I take a couple half sheets of newspaper, wad it up. Now, it's important when you're using a chimney of insanity, start it up on top of the grill. You can use it on a side shelf. You can actually use it on the grate itself. I'll do that. I'm going to stick it right here on the grate. If you use it down inside the grill, then when you put the fan on, it's going to suck in hot air, and that's not good for the fan. So the trick to making the charcoal chimney work really fast, as soon as you light it, that's when you put the BBQ Dragon fan on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. You just crank it right up there. See how I have the fan drawing in cold air so it'll never get overheated? I love how it sounds like a jet engine taking off. You can see the fire just jetting out there. So this charcoal is going to be ready to go in about 3 minutes, and then I'm going to put it down into the grill and create a 2-zone cooking area, and we'll be ready to go. So see you in a minute. This thing's ready to go. That didn't take 3 minutes, it took 2 minutes, and that is a hot chimney right there. So I would say that charcoal is cooked enough. So since I used my grate to start the charcoal, I'm going to pull that spin grate out of there. I'm using a 2-zone cooking system, so that means I'm putting the charcoal out on one side of the grill. There we go. That's a pretty good start right there. Add those couple pieces that spilled, and that's awesome. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and throw in the spin grate, just like that, so we can turn around. That's about where I want my steaks. I'm going to go grab those bad boys and throw them on. Welcome to the heat. There you go. Nice. All right, so the idea here of my cook of these 2-inch thick Tomahawk ribeyes is going to be to sear them a little bit on one side, flip them over, sear them a little bit on the other side. If I have any grease flare-ups, which I'm definitely going to have in a few minutes, I'm going to spin them out of the way just like that with the spin grate, and that's what is going to make this so simple to cook some pretty challenging steaks. This is not the first steak you would want to cook if you were just starting off with your grill. They're already starting to sear down there. That lump charcoal, sure enough, it's hot. You can feel the heat from here. So this is a great start. I may go get a tool to facilitate the flipping of these things, and away we go. Whoa, those steaks are already dripping fat, and I'm spinning them out of the way. Spun out of the way is a great time for me to be able to just go ahead, flip them. It's out of the fire. They've already got a nice sear on that side. I'm gonna flip it just like that. Okay, disaster averted. And now we'll spin those steaks right back into the fire. All right, here we go. Yeah. That's the thing about cooking a ribeye. It has so much fat in it, which is awesome, but that fat drips down. You have a lot of flare-ups when you're cooking your steaks over a hot enough fire. And you do want it cooking over a hot fire so you get that sear in fast enough time so you don't overcook the interior. Now, as we get a little further into this cook, we're going to start measuring the interior temperature. With a fat steak like this, I'm not going to depend on time or any kind of firmness test with my thumb. I'm going to stick a thermometer in there. So just keeping them turned out of the fire there. That's so nice about this spin grate. Move it right in and out of where I want. It's an effortless turn. And this makes cooking a big steak like this really easy. Yeah, there's that fire. Now, I'll just spin those things out of the way. I don't want quite that much fire on these things. Let me give them another turn. Listen, you can't turn a steak like this too much. You can turn it every 15 seconds, and there's guys that do. That's a real technique for cooking a steak dead even. You can say it's dead even coast to coast. From one side to the other, completely rare. I would never cook a steak like this anyway except rare, or maybe by accident medium rare, but I'd still tell my guests it was rare. So all right, I got those turned. Things are going just fine, and spin them back into the fire. There's no other tool for your Kettle grill that allows you to move food around on it so easily as this spin grate. Once you start using it, it's nuts. You just love it. It really makes it a better grill. And there we are with that fire coming in. You see how fast those steaks want to go to flaring up? You can just turn them right out of the way right there. Without the spin grate, This is a big deal with constantly sticking your tongs in, flipping your steak in that fire. It's a battle. It's a battle. We'll get these steaks absolutely seared on the outside, nice and rare on the inside. This is the time to check the temperature. These are looking about done to me. So gonna stick in the instant read thermometer, about 114, 110. That is not too bad. That might need another minute or two, but I'd rather err on the side of safety. So I'm gonna pull the thinner one. That one's gotta be done right now. And this one will give maybe one more twist on the grill and we're ready to go. That's a nice looking steak right there. All right, I think that that's been another minute or so with this one that was measuring 111 degrees. I'd like it at 115 with the instant read thermometer. Let's see what we got right there. Yeah, 118, 110, that's showing. It's in the range. I'm gonna pull this out. I'm gonna let it rest for about 5 minutes and I'm gonna eat. Nice looking steak. So my meat is rested 5, almost 10 minutes actually. So it should be at a fairly even temperature and I'm really anxious to see what it's gonna look like inside. So let's start right at that thick part that I was measuring. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's nice and rare on the inside there. Can you see that? That looks about right for me. Yeah. Let's take another dive in there. Oh yeah, can you see the juices running out of that steak? Yeah, that's pretty nice looking there. Even out towards the edge, still nice and pink, nice and bloody. So I'm pretty pleased about this. If you look how nice and charred the outside of that steak is and how nice and rare the inside. Look at the blood just rolling out of that thing. So that is about a perfect steak. Yeah, very nice. Very nice there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move right on to the toughest part of this, which is I'm gonna have to taste test this steak and make sure it came out all right. I think that should be a good start here. Let's start with maybe a little end here. You can really taste the sear, the charcoal. The interior is nice and soft. And it was marbled enough that this is a really juicy piece of steak. It's great. One of my favorite pieces of steak, the ribeye, and the tomahawk is just a kind of really fancy way to do this ribeye steak. The Spin Grate made it easy. The tomahawk made it great.